Okay, let's talk about the changes that we're proposing to our retail electric structures as a result of this. And basically, you could say there's four. The first one is our rate structures reflecting seasonality. And that's basically just a flow through of what TVA is doing, having different rates by season. We're going to have different rates by season on the retail side as well. That's all that is. And again, on the wholesale side, the differences aren't great. They're not going to be great. They're going to be very small on the retail side as well. The second bullet point there on the medium and large commercial customers, we have two rate classes. We call them GSA 2 and GSA 3, basically. Total about 3,000 customers. And those customers pay distributors like KUB a demand and an energy component of their bill. What TVA, who is the rate regulator for the majority of distributors in the valley, except KUB and a couple of others, has basically advised these distributors is for these rate classes, lower your demand rate, increase your energy rate. And that's really basically the reason we're wanting to follow suit. Other distributors are going to change their rates in this form. We want to be consistent with them as well. Well, why is that? Well, many of the customers in these two rate classes have sites not only in Knoxville, but Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis, etc. And we want to have basically a similar type rate structure. We don't want to have a demand rate, for example, that might be $14 per kW, and then that same customer in Chattanooga is paying $10 per kW. It's important that they be somewhat consistent, we feel. So, and Commissioner Snell, you made the point, I believe at last meeting, that seems a little counterintuitive to TVA's overall objective with the structure change, and that's true. But really part of this was TVA's way of sort of brokering, garnering agreement with distributors on this rate structure change as you went through that whole almost 2-year process of where we are today. So we feel it's important though for us to be consistent with other distributors. On the third bullet, the residential and small commercial customers, I know we talked about this previously, of course, but we are proposing to increase the monthly service or customer charge for both residential and small commercial $2 per month. In return, we're going to be decreasing the energy rate for that as well. We'll talk a little bit more about why we're doing that, and I'll show a couple of charts in a moment. But the key is, across the entire Tennessee Valley, KUB's customer charges in both these rate classes are among the very lowest. And really the trend for utilities is to recover their margin more in fixed monthly charges as opposed to variable usage charges. And this is more of a step in that direction. I'll show you a couple of comparison charts in just a moment.
But Mike, as you pointed out earlier to me, that the net wash to the customer is not going to be that much difference.
That is correct.
So even though the increased basic rates gone up, the energy rates gone down, the net payments will be not.
For an average customer,
yes,
that is going to be zero impact.
Yes.
And I have a chart in just a moment. I'll show you that bears that out. And on the fourth bullet there, the modification of the purchase power adjustment, we'll talk in more detail about that, but that's intended to basically address that potential over-recovery or under-recovery of cost issue and to ensure that that doesn't happen over the long term. What we're proposing here is the same model we've had with our gas system for the past 2 decades, and it works very well. And then lastly, none of these changes that we're talking about today are designed or will increase our margin. Commissioners, I showed this chart basically to highlight the fact that our retail rates, and I'm only showing a couple of customer classes, the residential and small commercial. We obviously have many more rate classes, but for sake of trying to make it a little bit more simplistic, just showing those 2 rate classes. And you can see that the proposed rates for summer, winter, and shoulder, there's not a great distinction between them. In fact, the winter and shoulder month rates are exactly the same. So it's only those summer months where TVA's cost, we'll pay higher wholesale prices in the summer, we're flowing that through on the retail side. You'll also see for both residential and small commercial on the customer charge that we're going from $8 to $10, $13 to $15. You'll also see on the proposed energy rates, there's a slight decrease as well, from 8217 on residential to 8063. Those are rates per kWh. I'll have a chart here in a few moments that'll show what the actual bill looks like. So again, we're going to reflect the seasonality. Now I wanted to go back and talk about the customer charge just for a moment. We are proposing for residential to increase it from its current level of $8 per month to $10 per month. Again, there'll be an offset in the energy rate that we charge those customers. But you can see across the whole valley that ours is very low, relatively speaking. We're 132nd out of 152 TVA distributors. There's actually 155 TVA distributors, but there's 3 that didn't show up in the data that TVA provided us for this chart. So still very low. Proposing to increase it to $10, we'll get closer to the median of the population, but still be about $2 lower than the median. And as I say this, all across the valley around this time, distributors are going to their boards and having similar type rate actions, and I guarantee you that the majority are probably addressing the customer charge and raising it as well. So when the dust settles and we start April and May, our competitive position or our ranking there may not change a whole lot, because again, that trend to shift to more fixed recovery of margin is prevalent across all utilities. Yes, sir.
Just for point of information, the 20 that are lower than us, would Nashville or Memphis be in that 20, or Chattanooga? I mean, how do we stand with apples to apples comparison?
Among the largest utilities, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe only Huntsville has a monthly charge that is lower than ours currently, lower than the $8. The other big 8 utilities, it ranges up. I believe Chattanooga is somewhat close to ours. You get up to some of the co-ops that are among the big 8, like Middle Tennessee as such, you have much higher customer charges. They may be up close to the $15 to $20 range. So for the largest, it sort of spreads the gamut, so to speak. But I believe there's only one of the big 8 that's actually lower than us right now. And Commissioners, really the same story is true for our small commercial customers. Basically, again, we rank very low. $13 is our current charge. We're proposing to increase that to $15. Even at $15, we're still $3 below the median. And again, this would be offset with a decrease in the energy rate for that class as well. Now to show you basically how for 2 customer classes, residential and small commercial again, how the proposed rates compare to the current rates. So you see the impact of the increase in the customer charge and the decrease in the energy rate. And basically you can see in both cases that 0 impact on the monthly bill. Now I do want to point out that, for example, in the residential, that's based upon average usage of 1,300 kilowatt hours per month. Because you're going from a variable charge to a fixed charge, increasing the fixed, lowering the variable, the amount of usage will basically determine if there's going to be an impact on your monthly bill. For example, if I used 1,000 kilowatt hours per month and not 1,300, then I would probably see around a 40-cent increase in my monthly bill. If I use 1,600 kilowatt hours per month as opposed to the average of 1,300, I would see a 40-cent decrease in my monthly bill. Anytime you're going to shift again from collecting from a variable to a fixed, the level of usage can cause an impact on the monthly bill. Now, yes, sir.
Let me just ask you, pardon my algebra, but assuming that in the future we're going to have nothing but increases in rates from TVA, be they fuel, because I know you've got a little disclaimer down here, includes TVA fuel costs, be they fuel cost adjustments or just rate increase. Is there any difference in residential bills, assuming that we're going to just have increases regularly going forward? It's not really affected, the consumer's not really affected by this new change in our rate structure, given the fact that we're going to have nothing but increases.
I would say that the majority of customers are not going to notice any type of change on their bill, primarily because of that TVA fuel cost adjustment, and it changes the bill each month. Maybe it'll go down $1, it might go up $1.50, it could have a greater impact on that. So even excluding the changes in monthly usage, per se, if you use the same amount each month, then what we're doing with a change in our rate structure is really not going to be noticeable on the bill.
I'm just sitting here thinking, however, if during the increased season of times, you're assuming 1,200 kilowatt use, well, generally they would use more than 1,200 kilowatts. Typically, would use more than that in the summer or in the winter, and they would then average less in the shoulder season.
That's correct.
So, is your graph there, or your slide there demonstrates an average, or does it take into account the peak I mean, if it goes to $1,500 for 3 or $1,500 for 3 months, is it still going to wind up at a zero change? I wonder about that.
It would for the entire year if your average came out to be the 1,300 for the entire year. It would. Now, you're right, for each individual month, if you were comparing just on a monthly basis, and it could be up or down, but if your average for the entire year was at 1,300, zero. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I'm still thinking, if you pay more for 3 months, and the rate is, if the cost of electricity is more for 3 months, and then when you're using less for 3 months, the rate is lower, I don't think they add up, do they?
Well, from that perspective, if you're looking at how the usage changes over the year, yes, there's a possibility.
I think, the one thing I wrote down is that I think from my perspective, as it relates to doing this, there's 2 things that concern me. One, I want to make sure that we're not going to jump the gun, and if everybody else in the system is ready to do this, that yeah, I guess we would go along with it. But the other thing, the main reason, I think what you said, the main reason we're doing this is because of the risk that we have to assume, and I understand that. I think it's very important, though, given the rate increase last year, that we are not going to saddle our ratepayers with any additional rate increase to satisfy our level of risk. So I think that as it relates to monitoring that, I'd be real interested at a year to see where we are, and if we have in fact made money, that we are going to take that into consideration for these rates.
And basically what you're saying, if this shift in moving from variable to fixed resulted in additional margin for KUB over a period of time, we would take that into consideration. Basically, I believe that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and really sooner than later. I mean, I think it's important that I mean, we got a good year last year. We raised the rates, and I think we all understand that. I just don't think that we need to be saddling our ratepayers anything more.
And that is certainly not our
Commissioner,
intent.
that is the whole reason we're doing this, because risk is up and down.
I got it.
And it's not really about us, it's about the ratepayers, and we're trying to level the risk for the ratepayers. That is exactly what, we're singing the same song. And we are going, at the end, to audit that and to settle it up.
And let me jump ahead to that issue. I think your point's valid about the customer charge. Depending upon really what, let's say at the end of the year that our average system usage was greater than that 1,300, potentially you did get a little bit more margin because of the way, or less than the 1,300, and you take that into consideration maybe in a future rate increase because you got more than you thought you would. And the answer is yes to that. Now let's move on and talk about what several of you have just mentioned about really the over-under recovery of power costs and what we're wanting to do through our purchase power adjustment to ensure that that doesn't happen over the long term. And what this chart shows here, commissioners, basically is I've taken the new TVA rates and the proposed KUB rates that would be going into effect, and I've taken a historical sales period, in this case fiscal year 2009, and I've applied those rates to that period of time. Now the chart shows the blue is, well, the red is what we will pay to TVA each month under the new structure based upon that old historical usage. Okay. The blue shows what we've recovered from our customers for that individual month. And you can see over the various months that it's not going to be equal. Under the current structure, it's always equal. Power cost recovery is not an issue. But remember, now paying based upon that system peak, but recovering on the average peak creates this under or over recovery cost issue. For example, September, we recover more from our customers than we pay TVA. That tells me that our actual peak for that month that we're paying TVA is lower than the average for which we're recovering from our customers for that particular month. You look at November, the opposite occurs. The actual peak, which we pay TVA based upon, is greater than the average peak embedded in our rates and what we're recovering from our customers. Okay. So over the course of the year, you can see it's up and down as you would expect. At the end of the year, we will have paid TVA almost $357 million in power costs. In this example, we have recovered from our customers $353 million. So there was an under recovery of $4 million. And it's because of that difference between actual peak versus average peak, okay? Our desire is to go ahead and basically true up, so to speak, that $4 million, because that's straight to KUB's cash position, straight to our net income, our bottom line. That's $4 million that we wouldn't get, that under the current structure, we would already have. So what we want to do is make an adjustment through the purchase power adjustment to our rates the following year, which basically flows back that difference to our customers. So what would we do? You take that $3,860,000, you basically divide it by your proposed energy sales for the following year, say 6 billion kilowatt hours, and you would get a very small component, like 0.0005, something like that, that would be built into your rate the following year to recover that cost. If I'm a residential customer, say I use 1,000 kilowatt hours per month, my monthly bill might be 50 cents higher in order to recover what I didn't pay, what those customers didn't pay during the current year. Now, it can work both ways. Here's another example. Same rates apply to fiscal year 2010. And you can see the variation of month to month. At the end of the year, though, we would have actually over-recovered $2.8 million in costs from our customers. That tells me over the course of the year that our actual peak was less than that average peak embedded in our rates. But we don't want to keep that $2.8 million. We want to flow that back to our customers. We would do the same thing, divide it by total projected energy sales, and then as opposed to a slight increase in the rate for the following year, it would be a decrease in the rate for the following year. So you would spread that amount over a whole 12-month period in the following fiscal year. It's basically a type of extended true-up. And really what, I know in Resolution 1240 it's thick and has lots of definitions and calculations in it, but when it comes down to it, this is really what we're doing. We're setting up a new general ledger account, basically, called unrecovered power costs. And if you can visualize a T account, each month, what you pay TVA goes on one side of the ledger, what you recover from your customers goes on the other side of the ledger. At the end of the 12 months, you look at the difference, there's going to be some type of over or under recovery, and we actually will have an external auditor come in and do a transactional audit, looking at each entry that's made to that, and then we would flow it back to our customers next year through a slight adjustment in the rates. Now, the examples I showed you, those are based upon historical sales periods. You could easily have maybe an extreme case where you had set an all-time peak, and then, for example, that under recovery might be $10 million as opposed to $4 million. So we think it's important to flow those over or under recoveries back to our customers as soon as possible the following fiscal year. This is a model we've done on the gas division for 2 decades, and it's worked very, very well for us. So I know that's a lot, but basically Resolution 1239 adopts all new electric division rate schedules, reflecting that seasonality and some of the other things we talked about, the increased customer charge. Resolution 1240 replaces our existing purchase power adjustment to do the new calculations as far as spreading any under or over recoveries back. So today is first reading. If adopted today, second reading next meeting in March. And then if approved, then it would go effective May 1st. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Go back on the screen with this one there. The annual audit by an external auditor,
Yes.
is that us doing that?
That would be an independent firm
Okay.
that we would hire to come in, just like we've done on the gas division. We use
What's that
working
gonna
for your,
cost us annually?
it cost us in gas $15,000 to $20,000. We assume it'd be something similar on the electric side.
Okay.
So are we using the same auditor as
We would most likely use the same auditor that we use for gas.
For gas, right.
Yes. But it's different from our financial auditor that we use annually.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting, sorry.
Yeah, it's a separate audit.
This is the question I asked on the first resolution. The question, I guess I want to know the answer to on this, was it relates to time. I think you had mentioned, you did, there was some consternation with other users last month, and it might be pushed back. Is that?
It did not get pushed back. TVA is going to put it into effect in April.
Yes, that question has been answered.
Go ahead.
How we're handling this, TVA doesn't care